Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Healing Frequencies Collective. If you're new here, my name is Chris. And on this channel, we explore tarot through the lens of archetypes, intuition, and personal reflection. These readings are for the collective, so take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And remember, the cards should never tell you what to do, right? They offer archetypes and perspectives that can help you reflect on your own life and your own path, but you choose your life. You choose. So use your discernment. Um, Not every reading is for everyone. So with that said, let's get into this. Right, today's spread is a big one. I'm using the stained glass tarot deck, which I really love the artwork on. You can't really see it too well in the shot because the cards are very shiny and I'm getting a lot of glare. Um, but our first card here is the Fool. Let me get it up closer to the camera here. So, card number one, present situation, is the Fool. And actually, before I talk about the Fool, I'm gonna back up a little bit and talk about what's under the deck. Under the deck, we have the Hanged Man, and the Hanged Man. Um, Whenever I see him, it's telling me that this is about a shift, right? That's what the Hanged Man is all about. It's about a new perspective, seeing something from a new angle. Um, it's the moment where something forces you to see the world differently, and sometimes that comes through sacrifice. Maybe you hang yourself upside down to learn the mysteries of the universe. Maybe you give up an eye. uh, that's kind of the story of Odin, which is also this card. um, Maybe it's not something so dramatic, right? Maybe you just take another look at your job and realize, I don't like this job. um, when you see it from a different perspective, right? And so this, for the overall like energy of the reading, suggests that the collective has already been in a period of reflection or suspension, maybe a pause, a moment of looking at something from a new perspective, and that perspective shift, it really sets the stage for the rest of the spread. So from there, we go to the current energy, which is the Fool. And this is the first card in the spread. The Fool is the beginning of a journey. It's the zero in the major arcana. It's the very beginning of the major arcana journey. And this isn't like naive energy, um, partially because of the cards surrounding it, right? Sometimes people can read the Fool very literally, but in this case, that's not what I'm seeing. And this is like the beginning of a new cycle after a cycle has already completed. So this is the energy of stepping into something new without having the entire map yet. The path forward isn't fully defined, but there's a sense of movement. And so that's the Fool, is like the willingness to begin. And for many people in the collective, this might look like stepping into a new chapter of life, maybe new directions, new ideas, new creative paths, new way of seeing yourself, a new job, a new hobby. It could be a whole lot of things, right? A new relationship. I don't really get interpersonal relationship from this, but you know, cards are archetypes. They can show up a lot of ways in our own stories. So card number two, the crossing card, we have the Five of Pentacles. So this is the challenge in the present situation. And fives in tarot, represent challenge or tension, and this is no different. And pentacles are earth and like material things. So the Five of Pentacles here often speaks to fears around like support, security, feeling like you're navigating something without a safety net. Um, this is very like Maslow's hierarchy of needs kind of stuff. And this can show up as financial concern, uncertainty about resources, simply the emotional feeling of stepping into something new and wondering if you have support. Um, and the deeper meaning of this card is often that help and support exist nearby, but you might not be aware of them, might not be immediately visible. So the collective energy here might be stepping into something new while also navigating fears of stability. And I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, when we first start out with something, you know, we're going to be a little bit uncertain. We're going to be a little bit shaky. So now this reading is really going to start to pick up speed, and this is where it locked into place for me. When I pulled this, I saw the Hanged Man, I pulled the Fool, and went, "Oh, here we go." Saw the Five of Pentacles. Yep, that checks out in my own life. And then, boom, the World card. Right. So the World card is the end of the major arcana, and it's completion. It's the completion of a major cycle, the beginning of a new one. Um, and when it appears like at the foundation of a reading like this this is saying the new beginning that the Fool represents is only possible because something is truly finished. This wasn't a pause. This is a major chapter reaching an endpoint. Um, and then we go to the recent past. So in the recent past, we have the Judgment card. And the Judgment card is the awakening card. It's the moment where you hear a call, right? This is the classic, the hero's call. And when you hear that call, a realization about your life, your direction, your purpose becomes clear. And so this can look like recognizing that something no longer aligns. It can look like realizing it's time to move forward, or a deep internal shift that changes how you see yourself. And when judgment is followed by the world, it tells a very clear story. You answered the call, and a cycle closed because of it. Because remember, this is the present situation, the root cause here, and the recent past, right? So we answered the call, the cycle completed, we started a new cycle. And the card number 5 here, message from above or a message from your higher self, we have the 10 of Swords. And this is also called the crown position of the Celtic cross. And this card can look dramatic in the traditional imagery, but this is another reason why I love the stained glass tarot here, because the deeper meaning of the Ten of Swords is closure. And this is the moment where something ends completely. And this ties into some of the previous readings, different deck, but the 10 of cards in the world were there, right? And in those readings, it also read as completion. Something's really over and it's not coming back. And the sunrise in the background of this card is important. That's part of the reason I like the artwork for it in the stained glass tarot. It's more pronounced than in the Rider-Waite. And it's a reminder that endings create space for something new. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. You know, a lot of times we look at cards that represent transition, you know, death, the tower, and oh no, but you know, every destruction clears the path for something new to be rebuilt. And this is really just confirming that that chapter is really finished. There's no half measures. There's not going to be like a jump scare. That cycle is really over. And you know, sometimes the finality of this kind of clarity can be relief. And so that brings us to card number 6, the immediate future, which is the Queen of Pentacles. And I love this. I love this card in this position for this reading. It's one of the most grounded and stabilizing energies in tarot. Queen of Pentacles, I think of her as the queen of self-care. You know, pentacles are earth, material, right? So this queen is embodied. She understands her value. She takes care of herself, and she builds stability in the material world. So after the intensity of all the major arcana cards in the opening of this spread, this energy feels like grounding and rebuilding, kind of finding our feet after all of this. And so that's what I feel like it suggests for the collective is maybe we're focusing on creating sustainable foundations, nurturing work, you know, maybe getting into a self-care routine, you know, this, whatever this is, this looks like self-love, self-care, self-worth, tangible progress. And so in the 7 card, in the self or you position, we have the 7 of Cups. And this is another place where I think that the stained glass tarot really shines for this reading. This card often represents possibilities. The classic interpretation of it in the Rider-Waite is like confusion. And here, because the art is different, I think it lends a better interpretation that fits with the rest of the reading. Like there might be multiple ideas, visions, emotional directions all appearing at once, and it can feel like standing in front of many different paths and asking like which one is real. That's kind of the classic confusion interpretation, but it can also represent imagination and inspiration, and cups are emotions, right? And so this could also be like emotional intrigue about what our future could look like. Maybe we have a lot of options, we have a lot of paths that connect with us emotionally, and we're not sure which one we're going to take or what exactly they'll look like yet. But we're standing kind of at the crossroads at the beginning of this next new path. So the next card we have in the spread here is the Knight of Swords, and this is in the position of other people's thoughts and feelings, external influences also in this position. And so this energy moves quickly. The Knight of Swords is the second fastest knight. The Knight of the Wands are the fastest suit. The swords are second quickest. And swords are mental energy. It can also represent communication. And so what I'm seeing here is, like communication, debate, strong opinions, rapid movement in the mental space. So around us, maybe things might feel like they're happening really fast. Conversations, decisions, narratives might be shifting quickly. So we might be kind of doing some internal work based on all the stuff in the spread so far, but the world around us might be moving. Might feel very active or fast moving. I feel like this also could be that people around us are getting up in their heads a little bit and like ruminating quickly. Maybe this is in maybe this is in reaction to us setting out on our new journey. So a couple of different ways to read that one. And then the 9 card here, your hopes and fears, with the Page of Wands. And this is the spark of fire, right? Wands are fire. And I'm reading this as inspiration, curiosity, the excitement of beginning something new. Pages are, beginnings. It's also kind of a beginner, learner energy. And so to me, this is like a sense of wanting to follow inspiration again, explore new ideas, creativity, new adventures. Like this is the spark of ignition, right? It also carries a little vulnerability. When you're starting something new, there's always a little bit of a question of whether or not the spark will last. And that brings us to the outcome card, to the 10 of Wands. And this card is traditionally interpreted as burden or responsibility. An even older definition of it was saving for a home. But there's another way to understand it. And again, like the stained glass tarot art, I think is great here because it doesn't evoke the same kind of feeling as the Rider-Waite card. And so the really key thing about this is that it's a 10. And it's important also that it's wands because it's fire. But the 10 represents the full expression of an element, right? It's a completion, but it's a different kind of completion. We can also think of this as full power. Also the completion of a story. So what I'm seeing here, this can represent the culmination of energy, passion, purpose, sustained effort, right? So in other words, the Page of Wands is the spark. And that spark has the potential to grow into an outcome that is a significant, lasting fire. And so that's what we have in the cards. There's some interesting things about the structure of this spread. Um, if we start with the overall energy of the hanged man, and then we go to the judgment, the recent past, the world, the root cause, and the present situation, the fool, we get a very clear structural arc, right? We had an important insight. We saw something from a new perspective that caused an awakening for us. And from that awakening, we moved to the completion of a major cycle, which led to a rebirth. And something else that's interesting here is there's two tens, the Ten of Swords and the Ten of Wands. So one cycle ends, and another responsibility begins. So the story of this spread, it's not just about the ending. It's not just about that the world card means the end of a cycle. The world card also means the beginning of a cycle. And that's what I see here is it's more about the moment after the ending, when the ground has been cleared and the next chapter begins to ignite. So the message of this reading overall, it feels something like this. A major cycle has closed. That chapter that needed to end has ended. And now the question isn't whether or not the past will return, right? The question is, what are we going to build with the space that's created? So the Fool invites us to step forward. The Page of Wands brings the spark. And the Ten of Wands suggests that spark may grow into something meaningful. So take your time, trust your path, trust yourself, and remember that the ending is not the destination. That ending was a clearing of the ground to make way for what comes next. So if this reading resonated with you, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I always appreciate hearing how these cards show up in your lives. So if there's a card in the reading that really stuck out to you, share it in a comment. If you're going through something in your personal life and this resonated with you, feel free to share it. A big part of what this is all about is for us to help each other. And your comment about how this reading landed with you could really help somebody that's in a similar situation uh, to know that they're not alone, that they're not going through something that's totally unique and difficult. It's always a little bit easier when we know we're not alone. So, yeah, thank you for spending a little time with me here today. And I hope you enjoyed this reading. And I'll have a new one up for you soon. Thank you. If you've been feeling like a chapter of your life just ended, this reading might be for you. This collective tarot reading has some huge archetypes in it. We have the Judgment card, the World, the Fool, and the Hanged Man as the energy under the deck, the overall energy of the reading. So all these major arcana showing up together is basically saying that we had a shift in perspective, and that caused us to answer the call, where we closed a major cycle, and now we're standing at the beginning of a completely new path. But the really interesting part of this spread is what comes after that, because the spark of something new appears with the Page of Wands. And by the end of the reading, that spark grows into a sustainable, powerful, meaningful flame represented by the Ten of Wands. Can represent passion, purpose, meaningful work. It can show up a lot of different ways in our life. So the message of the reading is essentially this. An ending just cleared the ground, and now something new is ready to ignite. The full reading is up now on Healing Frequencies Collective YouTube channel. And if you feel like you're standing at the beginning of a new chapter, I invite you to go check it out.